Welcome to In Focus. I'm your host, Adil Sabir, joining you from Pakistan's federal capital, Islamabad. On July the 15th, the foreign ministers of India and Pakistan met here in Islamabad to resume the peace process and to help to attempt to bridge the trust deficit between both the neighbours following the 2008 Mumbai terrorist attacks, which were allegedly carried out by Pakistani nationals. Now, the talks come at a particular time when both India and Pakistan are jockeying for position ahead of the US troop withdrawal from Afghanistan to begin in July next year. India and Pakistan have fought 3 wars. Today we will discuss whether or not these two nuclear arch rivals can ever bury the hatchet for the sake of regional peace and stability. To help me discuss these matters, I have Mr. Zaid, who is a security consultant as well as a political commentator, and Mr. General Retired Hamid Gul, who is the former chief of Pakistan's premier spy agency, the ISI. Gentlemen, welcome to In Focus. Now, the talks were quite substantive, but there was no real breakthrough. We went out and spoke to 2 senior Pakistani journalists and an Indian journalist regarding their thoughts on the talks. Let's take a look.
I think it was more like a dialogue of the deaf. What the Indians were saying was in monotone, just one refrain that it has to be counter-terrorism efforts, that Pakistan has to do more, a bit like the Americans. And what the Pakistanis were saying was falling on deaf ears. So the two could not really speak the language that both could understand. I think it was a bit of a diplomatic disaster, if you ask me.
I think Foreign Minister Krishna, has been equally forthright in, what the Indian viewpoint was. I think he's very, very clearly stated that, India wanted more action on terrorism-related concerns, especially concerns about terrorism directed against India. So I guess that's the area where, the two sides weren't able to find any common ground, and that's where things went wrong in the talks.
Pakistani Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi tried his level best to convince the Indian Foreign Minister, Mr. Krishna, to have a dialogue on Kashmir and water, but Mr. Krishna was not ready to speak on water and Kashmir. He was more interested in talking on terrorism. So no doubt terrorism is also a very important issue, but Kashmir is the core issue of Pakistan.
Some thoughts there of 2 senior Pakistani journalists and an Indian journalist. First, coming to you, Mr. Hamid. A lot of talking, no substantive roadmap. We saw no issues like Kashmir being talked about, the water issue, Sir Creek, no joint statement as such, a media fallout, in fact, on both sides. So do you believe, as many say, that this was just an exercise of diplomatic shadowboxing by India, if you may, particularly just to maybe appease those on the other side of the Atlantic?
You see, the hostility between Pakistan and India has been rising in the last many months. And as far as the diplomatic peace talks are concerned, these could be the worst possible timings for them. Because Pakistan and India are now fighting a proxy war in Afghanistan, and Pakistan has practically dislodged India now. As the NATO comes under pressure, the Americans are talking of an exit strategy, and Indians are panicking. So for Indians to, at this stage, come for talks with Pakistan in an environment when tempers in Pakistan are rising over the Indian blockade of Pakistani rivers, when Kashmir insurgency is already flaming up, almost out of control, and the Maoist insurgency in India is also raging now, that Indian army has been forced to tell their government that Kashmir militancy cannot be controlled by military force, but a political discourse or dialogue has to be initiated, because Indian army is now being asked to control the Maoist insurgency. So, from these perspectives, both these countries to come together for some kind of dialogue or peace process was a facade in any case. We knew that beforehand. Nothing was going to come out. It's going to be only going to be a photo op exercise. And in reality, the friction between the two countries have increased in the last many months, and it's in fact boiling over now.
Quickly, Mr. Gul, a very bizarre statement made by the Indian side, particularly the Indian Home Secretary on the eve of the talks, where he lashes out at the ISI, saying that under interrogation of Mr. Headley had said that Pakistan's ISI had executed and planned the Mumbai attacks. He could have made this statement earlier, of course, but some would say that there can't be smoke without fire.
No, this is nonsense. Individual Pakistanis may have been involved in it, but there is no evidence. Evidence is the one which is sustainable in a court of law, which can stand the scrutiny on the floor of the court. and they haven't come up with anything. They've been talking in the language of Tony Blair. A dossier has been sent to Pakistan, another dossier had been sent. But where is the dossier? I mean, it has to go to the court. When it went to the court just threw it out of the window. And they said there is no evidence that we can incarcerate these innocent people. You see, the Indian and Pakistani courts run on the basis of Anglo-Saxon law. The law of evidence is the same in Pakistan as it is in India. So I don't know what they are making so much fuss about.
Now, the composite dialogue process between India and Pakistan, just going back to the two countries themselves, was initiated back in 1997, I believe, where there was an 8-point agenda which both countries were meant to follow. It seems that in this particular phase of relationships that we see between Pakistan and India, that the original talk was of composite dialogue. And now we see that there's a bit of a shift on the part of India, where they're now talking of sustained dialogue. And some would say that phraseology has actually ruined these talks. Would you agree?
You see, Indians would never come to any talks, whether it is composite dialogue or any other kind of talk. They have only come here under the duress of the Americans. Let us make it very clear. It was the American initial agenda, under the FPAC doctrine, under the dossier of the Holbrooke, that Indians would be brought to talks with Pakistan so that they can resolve the Kashmir dispute, so that Pakistan army can focus on the Western theatre. Indians objected very seriously to that. And ever since that time, Indians have been refusing the American pressure also. While Pakistan, as Pakistan continue to exert themselves against the Americans in Afghanistan, Pakistan has been forcing the Americans to contain the Indians in Afghanistan, as well as force Indians to come on for some kind of talks. Now, that is the reason, that was the only reason why Indians came. Otherwise, there is absolutely no pressure on India. As General Sahib have said, they did not come with an open mind, with an open heart. In fact, they came with malafide in their intent. They came only for the photo op, to break the dialogue even before it starts. And that's exactly what happened, because the animosity, the hatred between the countries have been rising in the last 6 months. And for the foreign ministers to come to talk at this particular moment was actually surprising or amusing, if I would say, because we knew even before they started, they're going to break down even before anything starts. So that's exactly what happened.
Coming to you, Mr. Gul, finally for this part of the section of the programme, there are some analysts who say that, okay, there are 7 people who are being currently tried in anti-terrorism courts here related to the Mumbai attacks here in Pakistan, but the Pakistan has like almost failed to close these cases, which perhaps may be an indication that the establishment is not willing to really engage India, which is still, it deems to be enemy number 1.
No, it is enemy number 1, undoubtedly. There is no two opinions about it in Pakistan. So it is an enemy until the issue of Kashmir is settled, and it is settled on just and equitable basis.
No, meaning to say that the fact that the courts or the judicial process hasn't managed to close the cases on these 7 suspects who are currently being tried, would that suggest or hint that perhaps the establishment itself is not willing to engage with India?
I don't know. I think the government has, in Pakistan, even during Pervez Musharraf's time, it has been severally talking to India, please come and talk to us, but it was within the framework of the composite dialogue. After the Bombay attack, the Indians changed their line altogether, and they started talking about terrorism only, 1-point agenda for India. Now it is not getting anywhere. And the Americans are in a hurry because they have to pull out of Afghanistan.
We will discuss standing issues facing India and Pakistan. All of that coming up after this break. Do stay tuned to In Focus. Welcome back to In Focus. We're discussing Pakistan-India relations and how the recent talks will affect what may or may not happen in the coming months. Mr. Ahmed, once again, I want to come back